All right, we are now ready to come back to step 3 under fabric preparation. Underneath fabric preparation before was where you cut out your squares. We are now going to cut out the back of our pillow. So instead of having a paper pattern like you had before, you are going to use your 4 squares that are actually sewn together. So what we're going to do is put your pieces right sides together. So that's the pretty side. The pretty side is going to be facing the other pretty side. If you have any extra fabric hanging, either have it draped downward or kind of roll it on the side so you don't take up everyone's personal space whenever we're cutting. All right, so try to line up the best you can with your squares. I'm then going to smooth it out. I'm going to place a pin in each corner. Make sure you go through both pieces of material. Pin in each corner. Making sure it's all smoothed out as you go. And then I want you to come back and put one in each middle. So where our seams are sewn together, put one pin in each middle piece. All right, you are now ready to get a pin check. So make sure you put your card up on the side of your machine to get a pin check by Mrs. LaFrance. Once you've received a pin check, you are then ready to cut carefully around your patches. Please make sure you don't cut your fabric that you've already sewn, the fabric on top. You're just going right next to it like you did before. So I'm going to come down here and just make a little slit to make it easier for me to cut. All right. Everything is nice and centered. I'm standing up, my chair is pushed in, and I'm ready to cut right next to your pieces that you've sewn. All right, after you have finished cutting around your patches, you then need to trim up any edges. Make sure it's as precise as you can get it. You've already pinned your patches to your fabric and it's right sides together, so you're actually ready to sew. We don't even have another step that we have to get in there. One thing I do want to make sure before you start sewing on the 15 line all the way around, pivoting at the corners, I want to make sure you leave a spot big enough for about 4 fingers. Doesn't matter which square you choose to do this. I just want you to leave an opening that we can actually turn our fabric inside out so that we can stuff it and then hand stitch the sides. So just use your 4 fingers. Use some yellow chalk that you can find up on the cart. It says marking chalk in the second shelf on that cart. Grab a piece of yellow chalk. There's only a few pieces in there, so you might have to be patient and borrow from a friend. Make sure you return that chalk when you're finished though, please. So leave that opening. We're now going to sew one long continuous stitch pivoting at the corners, just like we did with that paper stitching. So I'm going to have leftovers to the left when I'm putting my fabric in on the machine. I'm actually going to begin stitching at the bottom line that I left. You are leaving this space open. Please make sure you leave a space open. Always backstitch at the beginning and the end. So I'm going to start stitching. I'm going to continue stitching, stitching, stitching. Go over the crease, over that seam, down. Once you get close to that corner, walk it, leave your needle down, lift your presser foot, turn your fabric, and then continue stitching. You're going to do that all the way around until you get to this space over here, and then you're going to back stitch at the end. I'm now approaching that final corner. I'm making sure my straight edge is on the 15. When I get close to that corner, I'm going to take the pin out and then begin to slow down and even walk it. All right, leave your needle down, lift your presser foot, turn your fabric. All right, you can see that line that I drew with chalk at the beginning. So I'm now going to sew only until I get to that line, and then I'm going to back stitch. All right, I've reached that line. I'm gonna back stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4. I might do a couple more on that one. Lift my needle, lift my presser foot, pull my fabric out, cut it about midway, and then snip those threads as close as you can without actually cutting your fabric and cutting those stitches.